Awesemo.com. That is the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. I'm the reporter, Jason Floyd, and we are sponsored by SuperDraft, and we are here to get your last-minute DFS questions for the UFC Fight Night card tonight. Of course, starts here in 90 minutes on ESPN and ESPN+. But Pete, of course, it seems to be pretty much every time we do Live Before Lock, we got to talk about the changes in the card. And we have a change as Takashi Sato now has a new opponent. As his previous opponent, one of his cornermen, tested positive for the coronavirus. So Jason Witt, out of Glory MMA Fitness, that is James Krause's gym in Lee Summit, Missouri, gets on a plane on Thursday, makes weight on Friday. So give me a little of your thoughts about Jason Witt stepping in this spot. Also, maybe other takeaways that you had from the weigh-ins. Yeah, man. So,
I'm getting tired of having to deal with these, late minute replacements and people getting hurt, missing weight. It's just kind of getting annoying, but, I guess we're accustomed to it. And, in this matchup, Takashi Sato is definitely the A side in terms of experience and striking. The one worry you have with Sato is his volume. He doesn't really throw too much. He's a super patient fighter looking for that perfect shot. And if you don't hit that perfect shot, you could not have the best DFS performance. Looking at film, Sato has an amazing left hand. So, he really throws a straight left hand, beautifully. Whereas Jason Witt, it looks like he doesn't really move his head too much, has decent boxing, and relies a lot on his wrestling. And if you listen to us on Thursday, you'll notice that Takashi Sato's weakness is his grappling and his wrestling. He has a lot of bad habits. But, down at Hard Knocks 365, I know that they have a good wrestling program down there, so I'm sure he's been working extensively with it. I just hope that he doesn't, make a mistake and turn his back and give up an advantageous position to Jason Witt. I have plenty of shares of Jason Witt just because if he goes the takedown route, I like him there. And it was an easy swap for Brahima. I just kind of 7,800. I just every lineup I had Brahima, I just put Jason Witt in there just in case he goes the grappling route. Now, in saying that, I have plenty of shares of Takashi Sato because I think that he can knock out Jason Witt and kind of welcome him to the UFC. I'm excited, though. I mean, what a turn of events. What an opportunity for Jason Witt. Hope he goes out there and shows off his skills. But as far as opportunity, when it knocks, you got to answer.
Jason Witt, to me, is much more of a play on FanDuel than he is DraftKings.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, he's not the best. It's tough because the 7K options suck once again. And you kind of, the more you look at some of these fighters, you're almost talking yourself into them. And I think I talked myself into plenty of shares of Jason Witt in case he does go the grappling route. Like I've said, there's potential there because Takashi Sato really struggles and he could get subbed on the mat. But outside of that, I think it's Sato's fight to win.
Yeah, our first two questions right here on the chat on YouTube. Of course, that is the best place to submit a question from Zane and Travis, both related to this fight. Zane saying, who do we think will win the fight between Witt and Sato? And Travis saying, Witt didn't have much time to get ready for this fight. There's no question. But if you look at Jason Witt's social media, he's been in the gym. He's been working. He's been training. That Factory X team is getting ready. The Glory MMA Fitness team is getting ready. I actually talked to their fighters yesterday, Tim Elliott and Grant Dawson. Tim Elliott's actually doing his camp for his Fight Island fight in Kansas City, not Vegas. Of course, it's Lee Summit, Missouri, which is just outside of Kansas City. But I think the way you spoke about it, it really breaks this fight down is if Witt gets the takedown, he's got a good chance. Well, if this fight stays on the feet, you definitely like Takashi Sato.
Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of shares of this fight. I think this is one of the fights that you should target. Anytime somebody steps up on last minute notice, it's typically, not lately, it's a spot you want to target because maybe they haven't been preparing the best and they could take advantage of that, weather in the storm of that first round. So like say in the Camacho against James fight, if he weathered that storm in the first round, James was probably shot cardio wise. Obviously that's a worry anytime you're going against somebody who has basically nothing to lose. But I have plenty of Takashi Sato.
Next up from Jason Miller, he goes, question number one, main card only without Lenz and Boser as an option, best options to stack a fight. Question two, need two of the four, Hooker, Pena, Sato, and Lenz.
Hooker, Pena, Sato, Lenz. Well, I think you need the main event. So since you brought it up, I'll say Hooker, and then Sato, Pena, Lins. I think the Felipe Lins Tanner Boser fight's going to be the most overlooked fight on the card. If you look at their recent production, they haven't really performed that well. But the one thing a lot of people aren't talking about is Felipe Lins' ground game. Like, what happens if he takes him to the mat? Could he potentially sub him there and expose him there? I think that's something you could look at. Sato does have a striking advantage against Jason Witt, so I think it's a close tie right there. I mean, I like Luis Pena a lot. I really like Luis Pena in this spot. I think he's going to take down Kamaworthy and get it done. But if you look on his resume, he's not the best DFS type of guy. Like, he doesn't really go out there and shut the lights out. I mean, he did against Matt Wyman, but does he do it against somebody who's really seen it all in Kamaworthy?
We'll get to another question, but I do want to thank Joe in the super chat for his donation. His question is, who's the biggest sleeper to get a finish? I'm really leaning towards Worthy to KO Pena since he doesn't get out of the first round much.
Ooh, sleeper to get a finish. Yeah, I know you're bigger on Worthy. I mean, I have way too many lineups today. I think I have exposure everywhere. I even have some exposure to Julian Erosa, oddly enough, and I like Sean Woodson a lot. But I think you could look at Kyle Dawkins as another that could potentially get a submission. He's a legitimate ground fighter going up against Brendan Allen, who's really, really good. That's not a terrible punt play. I mean, like I said, I'm not too big on a bunch of the lower options. But I think Dawkins has finishing potential. Kamaworthy has finishing potential. And then even Mickey Gall, honestly, if Mickey Gall is going to win, he's going to get a submission win. I mean, I don't really see him going out there and beating Mike Perry for 3 rounds. Can you imagine if he knocked out Mike Perry, Jason? I mean, what are the odds? That's got to be.
So we did the show the other day.
Yeah.
Gall to win by TKO KO was a 14-1 prop. I'll actually pull up the prop bets right now. Mickey Gall.
That's what I'm saying, dude. What is it?
31-1.
That's crazy. Can you imagine? Okay, so say he gets Mike Perry down, right? And he puts him in crucifix. Does Mike Perry really know how to get out of crucifix?
Seriously, if you count him out? Look, if you happen to place wager on fights, why not just put $20 on Mickey Gall to win by TKO KO?
Stranger things have happened in the sport of MMA, man. You never know.
Jason's Miller's question about main card only without Lins and Boser as an option. Best option to stack. You gotta say Poirier and Hooker, right?
I think that's the only one that really makes sense. I mean, okay. So say main card, right? If you have, I hate stacking, but say you have to stack. Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker is a striking match. Boom. You don't want, so you can stack that. You don't want to stack the co-main event. Don't see how that's good. Don't want to stack the sloppy heavyweight fight, Maurice Greene, John Volante. Potentially could stack the Brendan Allen, Kyle Dawkins fight if it's all on the ground and there's crazy transitions, reversals, sweeps, submission attempts, everything. The Tanner Boser fight, wouldn't stack that. Potentially, you could stack the Sean Woodson, Julian Erosa fight because it's going to be on the feet for 15 minutes. It's the same thing as the main event. I just really think Woodson's going to go out there and his length is going to be too much for Julian Erosa. But, I mean, if you're really making me pick some fights to stack, I think those two are the ones you can target.
Next up from Chandler, he says, best FanDuel cash punt, Worthy, Frey, or Dawkins?
Okay, so cash punt, I would say Frey, honestly. Jinh Yu Frey has beaten a lot of top talent, and she's had a ton of experience. So I don't feel like her getting a win is so crazy. I think Kamaworthy really, he's going to go out there crazy, but what happens if he just gets taken down or he has to struggle getting in close to Pena? I don't hate the Frey pick as a long shot for cash just based on her resume.
Adding a couple other fighters to that question, this comes from Russell. He goes, best 11 and under play on FanDuel. I think Frey has legit shot. So when you're talking about $11 and under, so the fighters we already mentioned, also John Volante, Jason Witt is in that category as well.
Dude, okay, so I know on Thursday I said that John Volante is not a bad play because he's, beaten a lot of top guys and is always in a close fight. But if you've paid attention to the weigh-ins, he does not look like he's in great shape at all. It almost looks like the quarantine got the best of him and he's really added some few pounds. And I watched Ray Longo's parade, and it was Ali Quinta and Chris Weidman wishing him luck. And he's like, even though you're not a part of the team. So I always thought that they trained together a ton. And I know that he's at Belmore Kickboxing. So that goes to tell you that he hasn't really trained with the guys in Long Island. And he also mentioned that New York's been crazy with the quarantine for training. So I wonder if this is just a payday, needs to get paid, thinks he can go out there and put Maurice Greene away in one round. If that doesn't happen, I think Maurice Greene can put him away. Potentially his strategy, Jason, since he got hurt to the body so bad in his last fight, is let me just pack on the pound so I can absorb damage more to the body. Maybe this is all strategy, and he's pulling a Roy Nelson, but Roy Nelson's the anomaly for not judging a book by its cover. So I don't know. I'm backing Greene pretty heavy in that situation.
Bro, that's not adding good weight, though.
Yeah, I know.
That's adding pasta weight, man. It seems like he's lined up to the pasta buffet a little bit. Dan asked this question. He says, how much more confidence should we have in Greene after seeing Volante at the weigh-in? Yep. I don't know if it dramatically changes my thought process. I think the question for Volante is, I don't believe he will necessarily want to take the fight to the ground. I think he will want to keep the fight on the feet just because one thing about Maurice Greene, he's very dangerous off his back with his triangle choke. It is his go-to submission on the ground when he's on his back is a triangle. So I think Volante tries to keep this fight on the ground. What ultimately concerns me, if you want to be a Volante backer, is his history. History of histories of decisions, split decisions. Yeah. And even at 7,600 on DK or $11 on FanDuel, or even if you want to take him at 1.5 times on SuperDraft, could he be in an optimal lineup?
I don't know. And I would lean towards no. I don't think so anymore. I basically had no interest in your boy Maurice Greene, and now I do have some interest because I think that he can pose some problems for John Volante. I think the size was something that Volante really would have to overcome, and I was like, oh, maybe he's put in a good camp and his resume and everything. But after looking at it, I really feel like this is going to be a bad introduction to the heavyweight division. And I listened to an interview, and John Volante's like, yeah, the quarantine, I put on extra weight, so this kind of seemed like my only option. 205 would have basically been impossible. So I'm leaning Maurice Greene more than I was on Thursday.
Next up, Cameron goes to Law or Worthy and Allen, Sato or Lean. So Yusuf Zalal or Kamaworthy and Brennan Allen, or Takashi Soto or Philippe Leans.
What do you think?
Well, I think in terms of value on the number, Zalal would probably have the most interest. I think Allen may be. I would probably say Sato and Leans are the safer of the plays. Yeah. I think Worthy and Allen have the highest upside of any of those fighters.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I actually would agree with that. I have exposure to everybody on this card for the most part. And I was going back and I was looking at who I might have overlooked. And I feel like a lot of people are just crossing Jordan Griffin out and really just penciling in Yusuf Zalal. I like Yusuf Zalal in the fight, but if you're looking for some fighters that could be going extremely overlooked, I think that Brennan Allen could also be going overlooked, because putting him in your lineup and then trying to get the main event and then trying to get another nice 8,000 play, it just makes life so difficult. So I know he's the most expensive fighter on the slate, but he could be coming in a little under-owned. Obviously, Orozco is going to have next to no ownership. Bozer should be decently popular as a high 7K guy that could potentially get a decision. But I'm telling you, I think Griffin could be going overlooked, even though I do like Zalal in the matchup.
Yeah, we mentioned this on Thursday on the strategy show. The smaller cage actually could probably hurt Tanner Bozer in this spot. Yeah. Mamba for Life says there isn't too many viable underdogs on this card, so we're going to have to take chances. I mean, just look at last weekend. Everyone is going to play Woodson, Poirier, so find a way to be different.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we talk about chalk plays. I think we look at Dustin Poirier, we look at Sean Woodson. I think you have to put Takashi Soto in that mix as well. I mean, that's when I was putting together some captain contests a little earlier for DK. I put Kay Hansen in a captain spot just because I'm looking at, if she can go out there and get a stoppage or gets multiple takedowns, her percentage at the MVP spot is probably going to be very low.
Yeah, I don't hate that play. I think that she can get a lot of takedowns against Jinh Yu Frey. Now, like I said, the 7K options are so tough. So that's why, like, for me, I'm more of a hooker guy for DFS. But like outside of DFS, who do I think is going to win the fight? Probably Poirier. And before we looked at the DFS card, I was looking at, Poirier as a guy that I wanted to build around. And then seeing how roster construction is, it's like, man, I know the main event's a really, really close fight. Like, I feel like it's like, Poirier wins 6 times out of 10, but maybe Hooker's got his number today. Whereas like a lot of the other 7K options, I just don't really like them too much. I mean, you have somebody who's super experienced in Jinh Yu Frey at 7,700 going up against a girl who is amazing at takedowns. And that's why you said putting her in your captain spot makes a lot of sense, because she's going to get a ton of takedowns. And, Jinh Yu Frey kicks a lot. And, Hansen really grabs the leg and follows through with a double leg, single leg, trips, body clinches, all that stuff. Great takedowns against the cage and open mat. So I think the potential is there, as long as she doesn't, force the fight standing up and get lit up by Jinh Yu Frey. So, you have to take chances on this card, guys. So be very careful. But it's a very volatile card, man. Like, it really is. It's like ugly.
Yeah, if you wanted to put Kay Hansen in your captain spot on SuperDraft, she is 1.8 times. If you want her in a flex spot, she's 1.2 times. Of course, speaking of SuperDraft, we are sponsored by SuperDraft. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft offers contests for PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft today using the promo code Awesemo12. That's Awesemo number 12, and it's $10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more, and $20 free on your first deposit of $100 or more. New users also get a free $12 ticket. Download in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits, more winnings. Now, many sports may be on hiatus, but Awesemo Plus isn't. Sign up today for a platinum package, which includes access to all of the Awesemo Plus projections, tools, and content for PGA, esports, NASCAR, MMA, soccer, and KBO baseball. You can review your membership options by clicking the Awesemo Plus tab in the upper left-hand corner of the Awesemo.com homepage. Of course, some of those tools in terms of MMA, as you get Alex's projections and ownership projections, top 6 projections, things along those lines. Also, gotta let you know about a giveaway we got going on over Awesemo.com. Check out the pin tweet on the Awesemo Twitter account, which is Awesemo_com, for a chance to win an Awesemo Plus monthly pass. This gives you access to all the premium content, tools, and projections on Awesemo.com for 30 days. All you have to do is subscribe to the Awesemo podcast channel and leave a 5-star review with your Awesemo username or Twitter handle included. It's that easy. One lucky random winner will be announced this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good luck. But P, let's get right back to the questions. Mike, appreciate your donation in the super chat. He says, Frank killed us. I have a predicament with a lot of Zalal. The top fire tool suggests he's a play with the low price tag, but should I fade this fight with a low KO percentage? Also, how do we feel about Jason Witt?
So, Frank killed us. Yes, he did. So did Max Roshkov. We covered that. As far as Zalal, I feel like he's going to be very, very popular as an 8K guy, basically on that fringe of the 7,000 options. And it makes sense because if you look at the box score, he scored 6 takedowns in his last bout. And what does Jordan Griffin struggle with? Defending takedowns. So, I feel like the likelihood of a finish is low in this fight based on, their experience. I think Zalal is going to look to, move on the feet, has great footwork, but doesn't really engage in like a slugfest. So the significant strikes could be limited. Now, as far as scoring points, Youssef Zalal is going to want to go on there and take him to the mat and put him down there to secure rounds. He'll probably look at going the safe route since he took this fight on last minute notice. Okay. So, Jordan Griffin's supposed to have a fight for the past, 4 months, Jason? It's been back to back to back that he was supposed to have fights. So this guy's been training for a while. Does the extended training camp hurt him? Or is he super sharp and prepared and has prepared more than Youssef Zalal? Time will tell. We'll have to see. But as far as a finish in this fight, I think that you can pivot slightly in some lineups. It is tough to find somebody in that 7,000 range that you like, and it makes sense as why Zalal is popular.
Be sure to hit that thumbs up button right here on YouTube. And Mike, appreciate your donation in the super chat. Next up, let's go to Russell Anderson, who says, who are your top 2 out of the 18-19 on FanDuel? So here are your $18 and $19 plays. Dan Hooker, Brennan Allen, Sean Woodson, Maurice Greene, Luis Pena, Jordan Griffin.
Okay, so I think outside the main event, I think Greene and Woodson kind of stick off the page for me. And, Woodson was basically his size against Julian Erosa. Julian Erosa took this fight on, last minute notice. I feel like a broken record saying that about how many times this is happening, but it's true. And Woodson has the volume advantage, and he's pretty sharp on the feet and has good takedown defense. So if Julian Erosa stays on the outside, he's going to get lit up by Woodson. If he tries to take him down, he's probably going to defend the takedowns. And I think it's going to be a hard fight for Julian Erosa, and Erosa has been finished plenty of times in the past. Now, in saying that, the man has 30 fights and 22 professional wins. So the guy knows what to do in the cage, and he is going up against a guy who's only 7-0. So temper expectations, but I do like Woodson as a safer play on the card. And Greene, we already talked about Volante. I like Greene. He sticks out to me big time.
And Brennan Murray says, who would you guys recommend, including Sato and parlays at -280? To me, if I'm looking at safe plays, I look at Mike Perry. I look at Sean Woodson. If you want to throw an underdog in there, Jordan Griffin at +113, I think is someone to look at. But I think in terms of who I feel pretty confident about would be Mike Perry. Look, he definitely could get submitted, but I think you do like him in the spot he's in. And of course, Sean Woodson, who's over a 5-1 favorite, but those aren't great odds.
Yeah, no, there's no underdogs that are really sticking off the page and making me say oh man, I need to have him in my lineup. I think Worthy makes sense based on how we haven't really seen Pena beat somebody who's a really, really talented fighter. You know what I'm saying? He's beaten some okay fighters, but some of the tests in the UFC, he's failed. And, you think of Matt Frivola. And then, it's just, does Worthy get close enough to Pena to hurt him? And then does he avoid the takedowns? Because Pena is probably going to get cracked and then want to take him to the mat to make sure that he has a safe win here.
Yeah. Next up we've got a lot of questions about stacking Hooker and Poirier. We've kind of talked about that already. Franklin says Poirier in cash.
Yeah, I think Poirier is the more logical fighter that's going to win. Rostering Dan Hooker gives you the roster flexibility to play around with your lineup a lot more ways than Dustin Poirier, because you can only get so creative at the top, and at the bottom, if you're, having tons of salary left over, I think that you can really come up with some creative combinations that have some likelihood of finishing or some high potential. So that's why for GPP, I favor Dan Hooker. For cash, I would say Dustin Poirier.
Zane says, would you put Perry in almost every lineup? I have a lot of Perry. I do have some Gall. And someone asked me on Twitter earlier today about, Gall as an upset pick. I said, look, I can see it happening. I can tell you the path and how it happens.
Yeah.
My only concern is, how does he get it to the ground? Because he's not a double leg guy. To me, if he's going to get Mike down, I think it's about getting against the fence and using a trip to take him down. Now, where I think you do start to like Gall is, I would say if this fight hits the 7-8 minute mark, I think it starts to favor him at that point.
Yeah, all right, so let's talk about something I don't think that we've talked about from Mike Perry. Coming off a lot of damage against Vicente Luque, And then prior to that, I'm sorry. Lastly, he fought Jeff Neal and got knocked out. So how much damage has he really taken in his past couple fights? And I know that Mickey Gall is not really a striker at all. He's a grappler, but that doesn't mean that somebody with a grappling background can't hurt you on the feet. Like he can always crack Mike Perry and wobble him a little bit. And then, Mike Perry gets taken down, or maybe Mike Perry didn't take training camp so serious. I'm not so heavy on Mike Perry. I think the likelihood of him winning is big. I think Mike Perry gets it done. I think like 7 out of 10 times. But he could slip. He could get cracked. He could get taken down. If he does get taken down, I think Mickey Gall has a huge advantage. And I don't think that's really like anything I'm telling anybody. I think that's common knowledge. But, I have plenty of Gall because of him being a 7K option. That could give me upside. But, my expectations are limited.
Mentioned about the prop bet of Gall to win by TKO KO. The prop bet of Mike Perry to win by submission, 30-1.
Yeah, that's okay. I can see Mickey Gall hurting him and getting a TKO rather than Mike Perry submitting anybody.
The Wise Little Goat says, why is there only 10 fights on tonight? I thought it'd be 12. It was supposed to be 11, but they had a fight that got scratched. Someone's mentioned your favorite word in the chat.
A lock.
Oh, you're even saying it now? Oh man, wow.
I'm not applying it.
Says Greene, I think, is a lock. I don't know if I would go that far in terms of that. Jared, Poirier ownership percentage.
I'm gonna say right around 45%. That's what I would guess.
Ooh, I was gonna say 55-ish. That'd be my guess. I'm actually pulling up Alex's projections as we speak about that.
Nice.
Let's see here. Going down. Most confident pick.
Jeez, man. Most confident pick. I guess you would say Sean Woodson, based on the size and striking and how good he's looked. And Julian Erosa's coming, just took the fight like 2 days ago. I do have Julian Erosa just because I have everybody, but he was 1-4 in the UFC, so that's something to note.
By the way, looking at Alex's projection, which of course you got to be an Awesemo Plus member for that, but I'll tell you what it is, 55%.
Yeah, you're pretty close. Very good. Right on the head. Good.
Next up, Matthew says, what low price options are you targeting? Comma Worthy for me is a guy. And look, I don't have a ton of confidence he gets the job done. But I think is when you're looking at that 75 and under, tell me who you think can win by finish.
I don't know, man.
I think if Hooker wins, I think it's by finish within the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I have so much Hooker. I mean, that's the 7K guy that I kind of like punted to.
If Worthy wins, it's going to be my knockout. If you tell me Conor Worthy wins by decision, I'd be pretty surprised. But he's a go for broke type fighter. Yeah. He can knock you out in the first round, but he could easily get himself knocked out or get submitted as well. When you look at the other low price options, you got Kyle Dawkins. I think if Kyle wins, I think it's by decision. Mickey Gall. I mean, look, I would almost relate. If you told me I got to take Mickey Gall or Kama Worthy, I might have more confidence in taking Mickey Gall.
Yeah.
Just because he's going to get to the ground. Where Worthy, he's going to put himself in a firefight.
Yeah, which could be dangerous against somebody who's so technical in Pena and so well crafted, and also has the wrestling advantage. I've seen firsthand Kama Worthy, and I know I mentioned it, get cracked and knocked out. I don't know if Pena does that, but I think that Pena can negate the strengths of Kama Worthy and turn this into, I don't know, like a nice little showing for him of getting a quick W. I have plenty of Pena. As far as Dawkins, I think Dawkins, he's a big guy, and Brendan Allen's really good too. So let's take away Brendan Allen's past two fights in the UFC. You can't do that. But let's just say this fight happened a year ago, right? On the Contender Series, because they're both coming from the Contender Series. It's a close fight. I really think it's a close fight because they're both big. They both are strong on the ground. Dawkins used to be a heavyweight and, has lost a lot of weight over the years. Brendan Allen's definitely more explosive, has fought the better competition, and has a wrestling advantage. But I think it's close.
Next up, Mamba for Life says, Orozco will TKO Sean Woodson. Mamba, I don't see it happening.
I had a dream that it happened, Jason. I had a dream that it happened. I made 4 lineups with Orozco because nothing against Sean Woodson, but it looks like he's got a big dome. And if Orozco,
why you hate on dudes with big domes?
Well, I mean, okay, so the guy is at a weight class where I don't know if he kills himself to get there. I don't know how the weight cut is. It is at 150 instead of 145. But Orozco is just wild. And sometimes when you're fighting somebody who doesn't have like sharp lines and isn't like a really refined striker and is wild and crafty, you get caught with stuff that you didn't see coming from odd angles. And maybe Julian Orozco can do that and clip Woodson. So that's why I put Orozco in a few lineups, just because. But Orozco, if he gets it done, man, the roster flexibility and the remaining salary is crazy. You could put anybody you want in there.
Here's what concerns you about Julian Orozco. He only has 1 win in all of his UFC fights. Of course, that was back in 2015. Came back to the promotion last year. Knockout loss against Devontae Smith. Decision loss against Graham Dawson. Knockout loss against Julio Arce. I mean, look, all those are very talented fighters. Yeah. You got to go back to 2018, his win against Jamal Emmers, a knockout win on the Contender Series, which is a good win for him. But for me, it's very tough to have any type of faith in Julian Orozco. Mike in the super chat, Mike, appreciate your donation. He says, Bozer looked good on the scales versus Lins. Should you fade completely or have Bozer for $17? I just don't know. I know Lins was a favorite, but he didn't look very good at the weigh-ins. Best $11 option on FanDuel.
Okay, so don't like read into too much on the weigh-ins. I know I've said it before, and sometimes I can like pick up little subtle things on weigh-ins. But as far as that fight, I didn't see anything from Lins that made me look and say he looked bad on the scale. He didn't look good. Don't go by body type or how lean somebody looks or something like that. Unless it's blatantly obvious. I think Lins basically just always looks like that. Maybe he's changed some supplements or something, Jason. Who knows? But I think that fight is the most overlooked fight on the card, and for good reason. But I think that if you want to be contrarian, you should target it.
In terms of $11 options on FanDuel, Jenu Frey could be very low owned. Low owned.
I think so look, I'm looking at $11 options. You got Erosa, Worthy, Fry, and then is Witt 11?
Witt's 10.
Okay, so Witt's 10. Of those, man, like who's the highest caliber? Volante? No. Erosa? No. Worthy has potential, but I think Jinu Fry, I mean, she's coming up a weight class, so it's a tough matchup. That's why a lot of people are not on her. And you could get a champion, a former champion, at a discount here.
Next up, Pierce says, who's your low-owned 8K pivot with high upside?
A low-owned 8K pivot. Well, Sato's probably going to be pretty chalky now. I think
is it Jordan Griffin?
I think I mentioned it before. I think Jordan Griffin's one of the most overlooked fighters. And if you look on his box score, he doesn't have a pretty box score. And you go over to Youssef Zalal, who has taken people down 6 times in a fight. And, one fight in the UFC. And, it's the nice little shiny new toy that everybody wants to roster. And you kind of forget how good Jordan Griffin is. But Jordan Griffin does have terrible, terrible takedown defense, but has threatening jiu-jitsu. 25-fight veteran and Jordan Griffin, who's 1-2 in the UFC, going up against 8-2 Zalal, who is 1-0 in UFC. It's a close fight, and the salaries tell you that $8,200 versus $8,000. So I have a few lineups with Griffin because I think he's going to be completely underowned.
David wants us to chat whether we would take a risk in Jason Witt or Jinu Frey.
Okay, so I think Jinu Frey is a more of a cash play because if she wins, it's probably by decision. She could win by a head kick knockout or clipping or clipping her opponent Hansen. But I think if Witt wins, it's through tons of takedowns and grappling control and maybe some significant strikes on the ground. So in that situation, the safer play is Jinh Yu Frey, but the more upside I would say is for Jason Witt.
Next up, Matthew says you like Volante or Zalal better in FanDuel.
I would say Zalal. I have plenty of Zalal, and I know I mentioned Jordan Griffin, but I have plenty of Zalal because he's one of those fighters that at 8,000, if he goes back to the takedowns and is smart with this late minute, fight, that he can go in there and just really expose Jordan Griffin and not get subbed because he seems like a smart fighter and smarter than a lot of other fighters that Jordan Griffin has pulled off miraculous come from behind wins.
Big Sean says on DraftKings, Frey or Worthy?
Frey or Worthy? DraftKings. Upside 100% for Worthy, right? I mean, safety-wise, genuine fries. Like, I had an insider from Invicta talking to me, and we fully expected Jinh Yu Frey coming off of being as a former champion. She was going to be the favorite in the fight, and surprisingly, she's not. So this could be a discount at 7,700. I could definitely see her pulling it together, and if she defends takedowns and scrambles well, you could be looking at a decent score.
Samuel says top 3 MVP for FanDuel.
MVP for FanDuel. So you have to target somebody who's a striker who could get you a TKO finish or a KO finish. So I think that your boy Greene is somebody to look at. I think that, especially after seeing how bad Volante looks, and he's coming up a weight class, doesn't look like he's really trained, coming out of New York with like limited quarantine training. I think he's somebody to look at. Sean Woodson's another, based on significant strikes volume, averaging 5 strikes a minute, whereas Julian Orozco absorbs 5 strikes a minute. The problem with Woodson is if he doesn't get the finish and he only gets you about 85 or so points, did he pay off the salary? I don't know.
Next up, do we target the first fight? The first fight's Jordan Griffin versus Yusuf Zalal.
Do you think a finish happens in that fight? I probably would lean no.
I think that's got 15 minutes of fighting.
I have plenty of it based on the salaries and trying to grab a steal and grabbing somebody who everybody's forgetting and moving past. But likelihood of a finish, I really don't know. The thing with Jordan Griffin is, right, I feel like he's kind of like a more expensive Kama Worthy, where he's going to go for brokes for submissions and be in bad positions because of it. If he grabs one, he's going to pay off incredibly. Whereas I think Yusuf Zalal is kind of like a really methodical type of striker, good flow, likes to chain together takedowns, and would be content with a decision over Jordan Griffin, especially on short notice.
Next up, Travis says, how do you guys feel about fading the Perry and Gall fight?
I have faded that fight a decent amount, Jason, and I know everybody's expecting a finish, but Mickey Gall has a decent chin. He just has some defensive woes, and in his previous bout I watched, he was getting hit with a left hook a lot. And guess what? Mike Perry really excels at throwing bomb hooks and moves his head well and then blitzes forward. Just maybe Mickey Gall times it perfectly, and he's been working on this. And as soon as Mike Perry blitzes forward, he ducks under and doubles him, because that could happen. I have plenty of lineups where I'm fading it, though, in case both of them are tough enough to go to a decision.
Franklin says, I've got 20 lineups, 50% Poirier, 50% Hooker.
I like it. I like it. I think I would look at the 50% Poirier and make sure that they're not too similar, because that's where you get in trouble, because you're paying $8,700 for Poirier, right? And say you have one fighter consistent throughout them all, and he ends up losing, like a Camacho. There goes all those lineups. So I would try to mix it up a little bit, but being a higher priced option is very tough to do so.
Next up, Boot says, he goes, I feel like Woodson will be the highest owned. I am fading and hoping it goes the distance. Thoughts? Yeah,
I have plenty of lineups where I faded that as well, because that's my mindset. Is Julian Orozco is tough, and Woodson, I don't know if he can bust a grape. I'm not sure. It looks like he has great flow and he has good technique and good range, but outside of a knee up the middle, it doesn't really look like he has like crazy power or any damaging shots. I think you're going to see Julian Erosa's head snap back from a lot of shots. I just don't know if he's going to be able to put him away. Looking back on history, it would look like Julian Erosa is going to go in there and get finished. But I mean, he's fought some guys with some crazy pop. I mean, hasn't he?
Yeah, no, you're definitely right there. Justin says Lins or Hansen, DraftKings GPP.
Okay, so I think the likelihood of the Hansen Jinh Fry fight going to decision is pretty high. And I think that heavyweight fight you can circle is it's going to be overlooked. Now, in a regular cage, in a regular octagon, Tanner Boser is going to leg kick and move and just look to outpoint him because based on the box score, he outproduced Felipe Lins in their last performances if you just compare last fight to last fight. And, a lot of people might be underestimating Felipe Lins because he lost to Andrei Arlovski, but Andrei Arlovski's looked pretty good lately. And maybe Felipe Lins just has too much power for Tanner Boser and with the small cage can take him down to get a quick W because I'm sure he wants to hang around the UFC and not get cut.
Be sure to hit that thumbs up button here on YouTube. Pete wants to get to 150, so let's help make Pete's day here. Get it up to 150. David, why is Hansen the favorite over Frey? Look, I think part of it is the weight that the fight's at.
Yeah, so she's coming up a weight class, but it's also like path to victory and just like breaking down film and analyzing. I understand the odds. But Kay Hansen's very, very inexperienced. She's fought a lot of tough fighters, but not really to like Jinh Fry's level of experience. Fry has 16 fights. Kay Hansen has 9. But Jinh Fry really kicks a lot and has shown in the past that she can be held down. And she's fighting a grappler who really excels in takedowns and top pressure. So I think this could be a nightmare of a matchup for her, especially if she's put on her back. But if she keeps it standing, she's definitely going to win this fight.
Ty says, can you rank Pena, Greene, Woodson, Allen? I personally would rank it 1 Woodson, 2 Greene, 3 Allen, Pena 4.
Okay, so I'm going to go Greene 1. It blows my mind I'm saying that. Woodson 2. Pena 3 and Allen 4. I don't have anything against Brendan Allen. I noticed that I looked at my lineups and I said, man, I need to get a little bit more exposure there. So I went back and tweaked some things in case he does get a finish. He's notorious for finishes, but I can see Dawkins being tough enough to survive.
Jay says Frey Hansen fight might be like the Austin Hooper fight. I'm guessing where he's related to that is the prospect aspect that Hooper had in comparison to the Kay Hansen being 20 years old as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison. Good comparison. If Hansen can't get it to the mat, I would expect Jinh Fry to be on the feet, lighting her up. And as long as she abstains from kicking too much, she'll be okay. Because I tell you, Kay Hansen really, really catches kicks well. Maybe Jinh Fry switches it up and throws a knee up the middle. But the likely scenario is Hansen dumps her, puts her on her back, and wins the decision.
20 Rick says, would you guys consider making a prop bet if you got plus 670 for there to be no submissions tonight?
Ooh, that I haven't thought of that. That's interesting. Okay. Poirier Hooker.
No.
I don't know, bro. It could somebody hurt somebody and then sub them. I don't know. Perry Gall.
Gall wins by submission.
Alan Dawkins. See, that's bold because there are a lot of grapplers on this card.
Yeah, there's a couple of fights and fighters on the card you say they could definitely win by submission.
Hansen
I mean, look at plus 670. I don't think it's a bad prop bet to make.
I don't know if I could do that. That seems.
But yeah. You're sweating that one out.
Yeah.
JN says Dustin Poirier will lose this fight and his next. Come on, guys, wake up. I saw this stat. Fighters after he fought Khabib have gone 6-13.
Yep. And then did you also see the stat that every fighter who's fought Paul Felder has lost their next fight? So you can make these comparisons and you can argue for both sides. At the end of the day, I do favor Hooker for DraftKings, and that's because of roster construction. I think if I really had to choose, I'd pick Poirier based on experience.
I have more shares on DK of Poirier. I might.
It's interesting.
Poirier and Perry are my two chalks. I just, because I think when you look at the main event, I think you look at the output with Dustin Poirier, and I really, if this fight gets to the 4th and 5th round, I can't get Hooker's fight of Paul Felder out of my mind. Of he slowed down in the 4th and 5th round, and that is concern to me. Yeah. GQ, Poirier or Woodson for FanDuel MVP for cash.
You got to go with Poirier based on the 5 rounds. I don't think that, Woodson should be in your lineup for FanDuel. He's a striker. He's not going to go out there and shoot a single takedown. I think Poirier, based on the 5 rounds, and he's in a striking matchup, I think that you'd be silly to go otherwise.
Of course, we are presented by SuperDraft. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft offers contests for PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft today using the promo code Awesemo12. That's Awesemo12, and it's $10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more, and $20 total free on your first deposit of $100 or more. New users also get a free $12 ticket. Download it in the App Store or play at SuperDraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits, more winning. Also, be sure to follow Awesemo on Facebook and Instagram, as we're providing free Awesemo Plus player projections for PGA, NASCAR, MMA, and more on our Instagram page at Awesemo_com and our Awesemo Facebook page daily. So make sure to give them a follow. And the fighter that they're featuring this week is Mike Perry. And be sure to for a Awesemo Plus MMA weekly pass to get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and contents for the upcoming MMA DFS slate, with an Awesemo MMA weekly pass for $8.95. This includes full access to Awesemo's leading fighter projection, ownership projections, and top fighter tool. There's never been a better time for MMA DFS. So step into the octagon today. Next up from Christopher, Perry or Allen safer for DK, whose upside is higher?
I would say Perry in that situation, based on the soft matchup. The one thing that's throwing everybody for a loop is how he had no training, basically no training camp. Well, he's had a training camp. He hasn't had coaches, and he has his girlfriend cornering him. So who knows? Maybe he's just, joking with us all on that. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's just doing it all for the antics in the show. But I would say Mike Perry based on the knockout potential.
Next up, Samuel says Sato at MVP.
Ooh. That's risky. And that's risky because of his output. He's very patient, okay? And he does struggle with takedown defense. And his opponent, Jason Witt, does have good takedowns. Now, I do expect Sato to be able to land some shots and potentially put him away. We have seen Jason Witt finished in the past by punches. So that's the kind of more likelihood of, that's the likely route that's going to happen in the fight. But if Jason Witt goes in there and gets close enough to negate the strengths of Takashi Sato, I think he's going to put him on the mat several times.
William asked the top 2 GPP for FanDuel.
Ooh, okay. FanDuel. Let's see if we can find some steals. I think Woodson, and I think if I was playing all around FanDuel, which I'm not today, I think I'd look a lot at Woodson and a lot at Greene, because I think that they have some potential in significant strikes and finishing ability.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the FanDuel scoring, you get 150 points for a first-round win. The one thing that you definitely do look at on FanDuel that's not on DK is 4.5 points for a takedown defense is something to pay attention to there. Next up, A Coke 25 says, who scores higher, Pena, Hansen, Sato, Leans, or the winner of Griffin's Law?
Pena, Hansen, Sato, Leans. I would say nobody in the Zalal fight. I'd be surprised if that's in the optimal. What? I don't know. That's tough. The Sato could get a knockout. Leans. I think for me, and you might disagree, I think Pena in that situation.
I don't. I wouldn't disagree with that because look, I think it's. I feel pretty confident saying the optimal lineup will have winner Pena Worthy.
I don't know. Is Pena optimal though, Jason? Can't he just like?
But here's the thing: Kama Worthy is going to push him to be a very engaging fighter.
Yeah,
I don't see this. This is not going to be a situation where Pena is just going to take him down over and over again. That's just not Kama Worthy's style. It's live by the sword, die by the sword. So I feel like he's going to push, and it's going to bring it out.
Okay.
If I was going to make any bold statement on this card,
yeah,
I think my bold statement would be Pena Worthy winner is in the optimal lineup.
I can see what you're saying with Worthy based on his salary, and I love Pena because I think he's going to sub him, but he wasn't able to submit Steve Garcia, and I think he had his back for like 13 and a half minutes or something crazy of that 15-minute fight. And Steve Garcia isn't a 55er; he's basically a 35er. So
35er who's struggling to make 35.
But I mean, you know what I'm saying. And he took it on last minute notice. So I don't know. I do like Pena, but is Pena optimal? You could do worse than pivoting off of him.
Chris says, is Worthy going to be the highest owned dog? I say no. Dan Hooker.
I think Worthy might be right there, Jason. And I think more people know who Poirier is. For some reason, nobody's getting behind Dan Hooker. I think it's a close fight in the main event.
Over at Awesemo, we have 31% on this is on DK for Dan Hooker, 29% Kama Worthy. They are the top two underdog in terms of ownership.
Yeah, makes sense. It's close.
Reese says, do you think Hooker will actually be higher owned here than Poirier considering the sour relief? Think there is some strategy to full fade with Dustin considering that?
What do you think?
The problem is you're not paying like over $9K for Dustin Poirier. I can understand that if like Poirier was like 9,300, 9,400. But the fact that he's at 8,700, I don't think you can. I would be more surprised if that fight's not in the optimal.
Okay. I don't remember the last time a 5-round fight that wasn't a female fight, hasn't been in the optimal. It's been quite some time.
Maybe the Adesanya Romero.
That's a good one. That's a really good
one. As I recall, wasn't Adesanya like 9K, 91, 92, something like that? And
that's a very good call. Volume. Yeah, very good call. You have 25 minutes to work with, though. It's very hard. Like, that's like the anomaly right there. Like, that's very hard to not produce in that situation unless both guys kind of pull the Derek Lewis, Francis, and you know what I'm saying? Where they're just staring at each other. Yeah. So, I think more likely than not, you need the main event. Fading it, I have a ton of lineups, way too many lineups today, and I don't think I faded the main event once.
Next up from Ty says Woodson and Frey or Lens Hansen FanDuel Cash.
Woodson and Frey or Lens Hansen. I think I'd go Lens Hansen. I have plenty of that. I like that. I do like that because I think a lot of people are overlooking Felipe Lens.
The only concern about Felipe Lens is
output, right?
Is there a potential that he's only a 60, 70 point score?
Could be. And that's probably why that fight comes in completely overlooked, because the likely scenario is that it is a low scoring affair. But if Felipe Lens goes in there and takes him down, you're talking about a big guy with a very nice grappling background, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So I think that he can pull it off.
Flawless asks, when do the fights start? They start here in 35 minutes.
Yep.
King Pay says, if you have to pick one between Allen, Griffin, Pena, or Greene on FanDuel, who would it be? So that's Brennan Allen, Griffin, Luis Pena, Maurice Greene.
I'm more inclined to play Maurice Greene today than ever before. I don't understand.
You did not say that on Thursday, bro.
I know I didn't. And it goes to show you, like, you don't really know what's happening during quarantine. Could Volante go in as being one of the most under-owned fighters next to Julian Orozco based on physical appearance? He could. And I still have plenty of lineups with Volante. But the likely scenario is that it's not a good introduction to the heavyweight division, and it looks like he's going to get finished.
CT MMA says, can you guys see the possibility of Frey completely owning Hansen?
She keeps it on her feet. I think she does. I think she really does. I don't think it's close. And the thing about Frey, right, is my guy who was hitting me up about the fight to begin with was telling me that Frey is super strong and will probably find a way to get back to her feet many times. Now, for DFS, that's kind of like, your eyes light up when you hear that because you think of the potential of Kay Hansen getting tons of takedowns. But if Kay Hansen gets 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 and Jinh Frey is able to get back to her feet and force the action standing up, could we see the experience of Jinh Frey really show and she can get it done? I think that it's not a bad call. As a 7K option, you're getting a former champion. I'd much rather play her than John Volante at 7,600.
Christian, appreciate the tip in donations there on Super Chat. Me and Pete both really do appreciate that. So 20 Rick clearly listened to the Thursday show. Because he brought up a word that I brought up. He goes, throw them bungalows, Commonworthy.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, Commonworthy has that potential, and it's always about finding the 7K options that if they win, they're going to explode, and I think that he's one of them.
David says, who would you take between Pena and Woodson?
If you're playing ownership and you're trying to have some leverage, I think you go Pena. Because I think what everybody's going to do is pick Woodson. And I think that makes sense. I think Woodson should be the play. But if you're doing leverage and trying to be contrarian, I think that Pena could be going overlooked because think about it. You got Dustin Poirier next to him, right? Most people are probably picking him, and they're probably picking Woodson. Those are probably like 1A or 1B that they're targeting. And then now they got to really drop down. So I think that Pena could be going overlooked. And then you look at his previous history of not getting finishes, and he does have a finish over Matt Wyman, but Matt Wyman really was coming off the bench just to come in and take a fight. So maybe Pena surprises people. I like Pena a lot in this situation.
Matthew has a question about FanDuel single entry, Pena or Greene? Who's the better option?
Bro, what is with me saying Maurice Greene? I'm going to say Pena. I'm going to say Pena because Greene will probably win. Volante has been in a ton of fights and has lost a ton of decisions as well. Now he's got some extra padding around his midsection, so maybe he doesn't get cracked to the body. I think Pena submits Commonworthy. I really do.
Next up, Chris says, is Volante the best 7K option now that Brahima is out?
Oh, God. I was hoping so. I was really hoping so. If you look at resumes and you look at careers, you would say that this is Volante's fight all day. And I have a buddy of mine who, is from the Long Island area. And he's like, my guy Volante, he's going to do great. And then we saw him on the scale. And I just don't know. I think if the old Volante showed up, he'd beat Maurice Greene. I really do. And I would have a lot of confidence in him. And if he was training with Chris Weidman and Ray Longo and those guys, I would have a ton of confidence in him. But he hasn't been training with them. He mentioned in his interview that quarantine got the best of him and he added a bunch of pounds. So he basically really didn't have. Yeah, clearly. He didn't really have a choice. And so he wants to just see how it goes. That was his wording. He wants to see how it goes. So he could be going overlooked, but I think Maurice Greene gets it done now.
Next up, let's go over to Pierce. He goes, how was Sato's takedown defense?
Not the best. Sato does have a good judo background, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. He does have a good judo background. Now, as far as MMA, we really haven't seen too much. He tried to toss Bilal Muhammad on his head and kind of did, and then Bilal Muhammad got right back up and proceeded to take his back a ton of times and take him down. And, Sato really turns his back. So if you get in tight and push him against the cage, he turns. And we talked about this on Thursday. He turns. And if a guy is good at taking your back, that's a very, very dangerous thing to do over and over. And also, if he does get taken down, instead of like posting to an elbow and cage walking, he has a bad habit of turning his back. Now, in saying that, he's been working with Hard Knocks 365, Henry Hooft, incredible striking coach. And then the guys down there, the great wrestling team down there. So I'm sure he's been working on his takedown defense, and he's known about this fight for some time. So it would be a big feat for Jason Witt to come in here and get it done. But we've seen it happen. I think Jason Witt throws bombs. I've seen him get knocked down. I've also seen Takashi Sato get knocked down. But the likely scenario is Takashi Sato does enough to get it done.
Henry Hooft, great striking coach. The only thing that always concerns me with him, if he's your head guy, is that the fight does get to the ground. Because if you ever had a chance to listen to the corners when the fight goes to the ground, Henry doesn't say anything. It's everyone else. That's always concerning if you're, quote unquote, the number one corner man.
I mean, yes, but you should have guys in there that are experts in a certain way. So if you have a guy picking up the slack who's an expert in the wrestling department, Henry Hooft should stay quiet and not say a word about grappling. If Henry Hooft starts saying something about an underhook and posting to your elbow and then, trying to work the single leg, you'd look at him and be like, dude, shut up. So I think he just kind of knows his role and he's staying in his lane. So, I mean, I don't hate on him for that.
That's awesome. Joey says, worthy Gall or stacking the main event?
Worthy, Gall, or stacking the main event. Like you're saying pairing Worthy and Gall?
Yes.
I have done that in a few of my lineups, and I think that's the ultimate GPP look, is going like a Hooker, Gall, comma Worthy, because I think there's going to be a lot of ownership at the top for sure.
Michael says top options under 7,800 for DK cash.
Top options for under 78. I like Dan Hooker. I mentioned that based on everything. Jinu Fry is not a bad one if she can keep it on the feet. And I know that's somebody we weren't really targeting, but kind of pivoting off of John Volante, I think it kind of makes sense.
Frey or Zalal FanDuel GPP?
I say Zalal, and I know it's probably not the best performance from either one of them, but I do like Zalal a little bit more than Frey.
Vintage Bowler says Greene MVP.
I don't mind it. I really don't, and it blows my mind because I'm not a Greene guy.
CTMA says, he goes, I got a great hedge prop bet suggestion. 2 plays, Poirier inside the distance, and the fight completes 2 rounds. What do you guys think? I like that bet.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and Vegas expects it to go past 2 rounds, but finish before 5. I don't hate that. I really like that, and I think the narrative attached to those odds is that Poirier is going to weather the early storm and then bring Dan Hooker into deep water and just really pour it on him and finish him. So if you're believing in Poirier, then that prop bet makes sense. But if you're believing in Dan Hooker, the later the fight goes, I would believe it would favor Dustin Poirier.
Big Sean, appreciate the donation in Super Chat. He goes on DraftKings, Gall and Pena or Perry and Worthy. So Mickey Gall and Luis Pena or Mike Perry and Kama Worthy.
I guess I'd have to go Gall and Pena in that one.
Next up, Dusan says Allen versus Dawkins prediction. I'm leaning Brandon Allen on that one.
Yeah, I expect that one to be a close fight. Sloppy a little bit. And I expect Brandon Allen to get the decision. Now, he could get a ton of takedowns and gas himself out in the process. And Kyle Dawkins, just being a huge human being and good jiu-jitsu, catches him in a submission. But I think it's an Allen TKO or Dawkins submission if you're thinking it's going to be finished.
Jacob asked for thoughts on Jason Witt for only $10 on FanDuel. I mean, look, as a punt play, because look, if he's going to win, he's going to wrestle.
You would hope so, but I heard him say that he thinks he can knock out Sato. Like, bro, if you're standing with Sato, then that's not really like the smartest thing to do. Sato's really only good at striking.
Bro, don't haven't you learned not to listen to fighters? Do I got to bring up your own example?
That is a good point. That's a good point. okay, you better not stand with him, okay? And you better look to take it to the mat. Just go the easiest route to victory and quiet over there, Jason. Don't bring up my stuff.
First off, next fight, I'm going to put you on camera. We're not going to release it. We're just going to put you on camera. Hey, Pete, what's the game plan?
Yeah.
And then after the fight, we play it for you. Go, did you listen? Did you listen?
Okay. It's very hard to follow a game plan when everything's going crazy and then opportunities present itself. So that's why you see like fighters who are experts in some fields going away from what you would think is the game plan, because they're just, taking what is given to them. And it would not be smart to strike with Sato. Definitely not.
No. Cameron says, is a quick turnaround something to worry about with Lynn's? The turnaround fighters have struggled. I'm not, especially at heavyweight when there's really no weight cut for majority of these guys. That doesn't concern me.
If he took a lot of damage, I'd say yeah. But between him and Andre Arlovsky, I think they both landed 10 significant strikes and looked at each other a bunch. So, if he was in a war, then I would definitely say, yeah, quick turnaround's bad. But maybe the best thing to do is to get right back in the cage. And that is the truth. Like, as soon as you lose and you didn't suffer any injuries, get back in there and you'll have that advantage over your opponent.
You got 25 minutes before your rosters are going to lock. Travis says, so do you guys have absolutely no faith in John Volante? I wouldn't say no faith,
I don't know.
But man, when I saw that weigh-in picture, I think I sent a text to you like, oh, you see your boy Volante?
Yeah, I know you did. Now, does this make John Volante a leverage play? And does this make John Volante a guy that can go out there and really just realizes, man, I only got one round. So he's going to go crazy for one round and look for that early KO to get out of there so he can go eat something else. Maybe that's it. I think that's a little unlikely though.
So Nick says Poirier might have the all-time DK scoring record in a single fight. So I'm going to ask you the question. True or false? Dustin Poirier scores more points tonight than Curtis Blades scored last week.
False.
Scored 143 for those who are not aware. William says one lineup, FanDuel GPP, Jordan Griffin or Maurice Greene.
FanDuel MVP. I'd say Maurice Greene. It's such an ugly pick, man. It really is for me to be sitting here recommending Maurice Greene, but it's based on like what I've seen, and he looks good when he throws, and maybe he does hurt John Volante, who's really not taking this seriously.
Ty, a question about FanDuel Cash. Is Sato a lock?
I'm not saying anybody's a lock.
No,
I like Sato's chances though.
Yeah. Vintage Bowler says, is Pena chalk now?
Nope. I don't think Pena's chalk. I think Pena is going to be somebody who's overlooked. Everybody's reaching for that 7K guy who's going to knock somebody out. So if they're taking Kama Worthy, they're not pairing him with Luis Pena. That's just silly. I think Kama Worthy is going to be pretty popular. So I think Luis Pena could go under-owned.
GQ says, Allen, Sato, or Hooker for FanDuel Cash. Already have Poirier, so would be stacking that fight if you took.
I'd go Allen in that situation. I feel like I said, a lot of people aren't talking about Allen, and you could be looking at a steal here of Kyle Dawkins has struggled against really good wrestlers, and he's struggled against wrestlers from different weight classes, not really 185-pound fighters, guys who fought at 55 and 70, taking him down at will, but he is threatening off of his back. Brendan Allen's super, super strong and has great explosive takedowns. So I think the odds make sense. Anything can happen, but in that situation, I think Brendan Allen's pretty nice.
Cash core for FanDuel, that comes from Dan.
Cash core for FanDuel. So you want a striker.
Or DraftKings, excuse me.
DraftKings. Kay Hansen, I like. I like her based on the potential. Does she get a finish? Probably not. Greene I like more than ever before. I don't know what's going on. And I think Salala at 8,000 is not bad.
How about T-Sub Clutch says Tanner Boser for DraftKings?
Okay, so he's a guy that in a regular octagon that you would like a lot based on leg kicks movement and accumulation of significant strikes, but perhaps he's not able to do that because the action is pressed a little bit more and he can't really move around the cage too much. He's a heavyweight, and you're talking about a smaller cage, so the action is going to be forced. If they clinch, Jason, you would expect Felipe Lins is going to, I got an underhook right here. I'm going to look to secure a takedown. And that's where I'm a little worried about Tanner Boser. I may not have enough Tanner Boser in my lineups, but, I think Felipe Lins has more power. You could take away the movement of Tanner Boser now, and Felipe Lins has the grappling advantage. So for me, I like Lins in the fight.
Nick asks, Jason's at a Browns hat? No, it's not a Browns hat. It's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers hat. For those who are not aware, I work part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers radio network. Let's go on down. Pena knows how to drag out a fight, though. His size advantage is going to be massive in this one. His size advantage, height-wise, yes. Reach-wise, only a 1-inch reach advantage, something I kind of put in there.
Deceiving, though. Like, I look at that and I'm like, dude, I don't believe that, because I look at Pena and he just looks so lanky, and his legs, everything. He just looks so long for the division. He also knows how to use range control really well. So I like Pena in the fight.
Some guys just have short arms.
It's true. It's true.
Cody Stamen talks about that. I think Cody Stamen's line is, I've got dinosaur arms.
Yeah. I make fun of a buddy of mine. Just for the same exact thing.
Maniac says, do you guys know how good Worthy's cardio is? I've only seen him fight once in his UFC debut.
You wonder how good somebody's cardio is when they really either get finished or finish somebody quickly. That's always a concern. It's like, how tested are they beyond the second round? Whereas Pena is seasoned in that department of going the later rounds. So I could see I don't know if I see Pena getting like a first round submission, but I can see Pena weathering the storm, outworking Worthy, and then taking him into deep water and securing a submission.
Justin asks, Witt, Frey, or Dawkins, DraftKings, GPP?
I wish I could say none, but I know you need one. Witt, Frey, Dawkins, GPP. I guess I'd say Witt, since you said GPP. I mean, the most likely winner of those three you mentioned is probably Jinh Fry.
Next up, who is the best value play? Worthy, Gall, or Dawkins? It's Worthy for me.
I say Gall. Based on that.
The reason I would say Worthy is I know the fight's going to be on the feet. Gall, he's got to get it to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's this dominant wrestler.
Yeah. Okay. He's not. But what happens, it's a smaller cage, though, too. So maybe the smaller cage favors Mickey Gall when it comes to clinching. But I feel like Perry's going to be so strong, he's going to be able to defend the takedowns. What happens if he cracks Perry? How's Perry's chin right now after getting knocked out by Jeff Neal and then taking a ton of damage and having his nose in the shape of a C since Vicente Luque? So you don't know. And there's so many variables around Mike Perry. I avoided the fight a decent amount, but I do expect it to finish.
Frey or Zalal on FanDuel?
I say Zalal. I think Fry. Look, at a lot of the 7K options are reaching, and that's the whole point of going, to the 7K options. You need to reach for somebody. I think Zalal's smart, and I think I could see him winning pretty handedly over Jordan Griffin.
There's a question about Mike Perry and the only corner person being his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I guess the question has got to be is, at what point do we think that potentially hurts him?
If it makes it out of the first round. Like, he's like, I'm just going to have her sit there and enjoy the show. Give me a kiss. Like, bro, come on. Like, he's making a mockery of, like, serious things. Like, what happens if I saw somebody on my Twitter, I forget who posted it. What happens if Mike Perry, for some reason, is taking a beating and his girlfriend is, like, so, like, petrified and she's talking to the inspector and wants the fight stopped? Like, what about that?
I didn't think about that. This is my, I guess, thoughts on this. Is part of this at all financial for Mike Perry?
I think it's definitely financial, but I also think it's like he had a bad breakup and he's trying to like rub it into his ex's face. Like You know what I'm saying? Like, because this is a different girlfriend. This isn't the same pink-haired Princess Platinum or whatever she was called. I might be making that up. I don't know.
You're not. No, you're right.
Okay. Where, you know what I'm saying? Like, but the coaches is what is surprising to me. Like, it seems like he's so angry towards everybody. Like, media, he hates everybody. But he had Jackson Wink in his corner against Cowboy Cerrone. And then, like, he's just a guy that doesn't take advice. It's like I don't know. He struggles with listening to people. And he thinks if you haven't been in there and you've never fought in a UFC cage, you shouldn't be telling me how to fight. I get that a little bit, but some people like Trevor Whitman, who's coached champions or something like that, or Greg Jackson even. Let's bring up him. Why are you not listening to him?
No, you're spot on with that. Zane says, would you put Frey in a lot of your lineups?
I'd say no, not a lot. What are the odds of it going to a decision? Pretty heavy, right? And typically, female fights making it to the third round is over 2.5 rounds is pretty high. You have a grappler in Hansen. It's a bad matchup for Jinh Yu Frey. The only thing she really has going for her is her experience and her striking advantage.
Next up, Adam Cook says, favorite GPP MVP on FanDuel.
GPP MVP, lots of P's. GPP MVP on FanDuel. Okay. Woodson, if he accumulates a ton of strikes, I think the range could be a problem against Julian Erosa. Your boy Greene, I'm tired of saying his name, but I think that he's legitimate. I don't think we've mentioned Mike Perry on FanDuel because if he wins, he's probably going to knock out Mickey Gall.
I would say winner of the main event.
Yeah.
Mike Perry. I don't know if I put Sean Woodson in that spot because, so let's look at his Kyle Bochniak fight.
Yeah.
111 significant strikes, decision on DK. It was 85.5 points. I think to put Woodson in MVP, I think you got to be thinking he gets a finish. Something a note that Machiavelli mentions here. He goes, Woodson's built like a toothpick, and Erosa recent interview said he's going to take him down at will. Is it possible Erosa submits him or wins by decision? So,
okay, I know of Woodson's previous opponent, Kyle Bochniak, and Kyle Bochniak is super tough. Can take damage a lot. I mean, and he put on a great performance against Zabit. So Zabit wasn't able to put away Kyle Bochniak. So Woodson putting him away is kind of really unlikely, and he did wobble him a couple times on the feet. Absolutely. I don't know if Julian Erosa can take a shot like Kyle Bochniak can. And we've seen him get dropped and finished in the past. I think Julian Erosa has some skills. I really do. But should he be in the UFC? He had a 1-4 stint, has been knocked out a ton of times. This is more of an opportunity in living in Vegas and having a good manager than it is of being, ready for another shot, I guess. I mean, I don't want to hate on the guy because I like Julian Erosa, but could he take down Woodson? Kyle Bochniak couldn't. No, he did take him down. He took him down once, but he couldn't do anything with it. And then
I believe he had 13 takedown attempts.
Yeah, he only got one, and I think Woodson defended the other 13 or 14, something crazy like that. So I think, especially training with James Krause more, it's going to be very, very difficult to get a win over Sean Woodson here.
Jace says, Allen or Greene at MVP spot?
Where are we at? DraftKings or FanDuel?
Does not specify.
Allen or Greene. So if I'm over on DraftKings, I think I'd say Allen based on how it favors grapplers. And if you're over on FanDuel, I don't want to think of Greene as a striker, but in this matchup, he's probably going to be a striker. So I would say FanDuel Greene.
Next up, Joey, thanks for the kind words there in the chat. Ty, Sato, and Greene, or Woodson, Hooker, or Hooker, Woodson, Greene. So we got Sato and Greene, or Woodson, Hooker, or Hooker, Woodson, Greene. FanDuel cash.
Start it off, Jason. Good.
All right.
Pick your favorite.
All right. Sato, Greene.
Yeah.
Woodson, Hooker.
So Hooker winning, I have him on DraftKings because I need somebody. I can see it happening, but I think Woodson and Greene are pretty safe wins. I think those are safe wins. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Chris says Lynn's Dawkins or Zalal Frey.
Ooh, that's a good one. Lynn's Dawkins. I think Dawkins beating Brendan Allen's. I'd probably go the other one with Frey.
Tristan says Perry or Greene.
I'm gonna go Greene. Gosh, man, what's with me? Are you going Greene or Perry?
Greene or Perry? Ooh, Mike Perry. Douglas Frey or Gall?
Douglas Frey?
Douglas was asking the question.
Okay. Frey or Gall? Frey probably gets it done in that situation. Mickey Gall has the GPP upside for sure.
Nick says smaller cage help Hansen, meaning it's easier to grab a hold of Frey. Hansen doesn't throw many strikes, so I think the smaller cage helps wrestlers, or is that the opposite? No, it definitely, for the most part, it helps wrestlers. But I think what we've really seen in these fights at the Apex is that it has forced engagement.
Yeah, forces engagement. If you get taken down, it's much easier to get back up in the smaller cage because you can work your way to the cage a lot easier. I think the smaller cage definitely helps Hansen.
Someone asking about new to UFC, what's better to watch while drinking? I'm a Stella guy.
I'm a chick, so I'll be having White Claws and whatever else my girlfriend has.
Wait, you can't go out and buy your own drinks?
Oh man, I'm just diving into this silly card that we're dealing with right now.
Oh, that's your excuse. That's the excuse. Okay. I have a feeling somebody else will have a different opinion on that, but I'll go there. John Volante, Machiavelli asking if he's going to gas out halfway through the first round.
Ooh, you don't know. I would wonder. His physique does not look good. And especially if he was this way all the time, right, Jason? Then, you don't bat an eye at it because it's just what he is. Roy Nelson, you don't have to worry about that. As far as John Volante, you look, it's like a negative transformation over the past year and a half. It's pretty crazy. And how much has he been training, and how much is this just a payday for him? And he thinks that he can just go out there and get it done early. Stranger things have happened. Roy Nelson's famous for knocking people out and looking terrible, but I wouldn't expect that to happen here.
A couple more minutes here left in the show. Fights start here in 8 minutes. Let's see here. Let's go. Joey says Hansen and Lynn's or Greene Zalal in DraftKings.
Hansen or Lynn's, Greene. Ooh, I like those options, man. Hansen or Lynn's. And you said DraftKings?
Yes.
Hansen or Lynn's. Okay, so you got two grapplers in Hansen and Lynn's. Lynn's throws hands, but Lynn's should look for the takedown. Or Zalal and who?
Greene.
I would say Hansen and Lynn's, oddly enough, especially because it's on DraftKings. I think that Lynn's could be a nice little the guy won $1 million over at PFL, and he clearly knows how to fight. Hopefully he can bring it over to the UFC.
Little news out of Las Vegas. Heidi Fang of Las Vegas Review-Journal. No, nothing crazy, Pete, so don't get worried like we lost a fight. Tanner Boser, Philippe Lins will now be on the prelims. Takashi Sato versus Jason Witt will now be on the main card.
What does that tell you, Jason? As a seasoned MMA reporter, what do you think they think is going to happen?
That Lins Boser's going to suck.
Yep, but also, what about the other one?
They think there's going to be a lot of high action in that one.
They think Sato's going to go out there and put a nice knockout on him. I really think so. I think they think they're going to have a highlight there. So knowing the ins and outs of the industry between Jason and I, you can kind of see when you have a hometown favorite or whatnot, you're not going to put them on the first fight of the night because then half your crowd goes away. In this situation, they want action-packed fights on where everybody's eyes are going to be. So they think the Sato has potential of knocking them out, and that the Lins Boser fight, which we've been saying, low scoring affair could be most likely. That's why they're kind of hiding that matchup a little bit.
Joe, appreciate the donation there in the super chat. I appreciate you checking out. Of course, be sure to hit that thumbs up button here on YouTube. In terms of Z Baseball talking, saying it has Witt something to do with the medical. The medical stuff was all done on Thursday.
Yeah.
All done on Thursday.
Yeah. So every time
you would look, if you didn't have medicals done,
exactly.
if you would not have medicals done, he would have never stepped on the scale.
100%.
The only way it would be medical wise is that the doctor saw something at the weigh-ins. That would be the only reason. But in terms of all the medical requirements to get licensed for the fight, that was all done on Thursday. I can tell you because that's exactly when he got the call. He got the call Thursday at 2:30.
Yeah.
Or no, excuse me, 12:30. He was on a plane at 2:30. So all that medical stuff was already done. Sato or Lynn's DraftKings GPP.
I say Sato. I think that he can go and knock him out.
Next up,
see, he's quoting Amy Kaplan. That's interesting. I don't know if she's misinformed because that's in every fight
for FanDuel. To me, that would be if there was anything medically wise, that means something came up. Not in his paperwork to get licensed, that there's something that came up maybe in the medical questionnaire.
Okay. Because in every fight that I've ever had or any fight that I've cornered, you weigh in and that same day you're dealing with the doctor stuff and that all needs to get cleared and, reviewed the day before. And I know that he just took this on last second notice. If for some reason this happens, right, this is out of our control. And I hope that DraftKings lets you late swap, or if you had, Jason Witt, that they credit you. But it's an odd situation, and that's not normal if that is the case. I would say that she's misinformed, though.
So Nolan King, who's a great reporter up there in Northeast, he's now saying it's more time to get Witt's medical test results. You know what that kind of tells me? That's coronavirus related. They're trying to get the coronavirus test back.
Oh, man. Talk about an unknown. Like, what do you do in this situation? So if you're listening to this and you have Jason Witt and that makes you completely uncomfortable, maybe you take him out of some lineups, because that would make sense as it being coronavirus and not pre-fight medicals. That's a good point, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, from a DraftKings and FanDuel perspective, that definitely is scary. Final question here. We'll take us from Jason. Says, should we fade the fight on FanDuel with no late swap?
I don't think it's a bad fight to fade. Sato's patient. Sato doesn't throw high volume. I almost said Brahima. That Witt is very durable, but has been finished in the past and struggles against takedowns. So I don't think fading it to be safe is a bad idea.
Zion, appreciate the donation there, and we'll leave on his comment. Sato and Greene, or Allen and Frey DraftKings.
I'm saying Sato and Greene in that situation. Sato and Greene. Yeah, but be careful with Sato. Clearly some weird stuff's happened with that matchup, but I have plenty of Sato, so I have plenty of both sides. So if that fight gets scrapped or whatnot, I'll be out quite a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are too. But that is going to wrap it up for the Live Before Lock show for UFC Fight Night, Poirier versus Hooker. Of course, be sure to you can interact with me and Pete on Twitter. I am at Jason_Floyd. He is at Pete the Heat MMA. Our next show will be on Thursday, July the 9th, UFC 251 strategy show. And DraftKings has got a millionaire contest going on. So we'll be in the lab getting ready for that one. So that is going to wrap it up for this edition of the UFC Fight Night Live Before Lock show here on Awesemo.